Good afternoon, everyone. Well, what a morning we have had from Jeremy to Kwame, Edgar Palacios, to all of the high school presenters from Liberty High School. Thank you. Thank you. It's just been fun popping in and out of sessions and seeing all of the amazing presenters. So please also do not forget to use hashtag Reimagine2020 and blow up Twitter with some much needed teaching inspiration. Please welcome Kansas's very own Tabatha Rosproy, a 10-year veteran Kansas teacher and the first early childhood educator to be named the National Teacher of the Year. She teaches preschool for Winfield Early Learning Center in Winfield, Kansas. Housed in a local retirement community and nursing home, her inclusive classroom is an intergenerational program that provides preschoolers and residents with multiple daily interactions. As the COVID-19 pandemic forced the closure of school buildings across the country, Ms. Rosproy served as a co-chair of the Educator Task Force that helped compile Kansas's continuous learning guidance. A career preschool educator, Rosproy hopes to bring a voice to the important role early childhood education plays in our society and to highlight the value of social emotional education at all levels. We are excited to have you with us today. Ms. Rosproy is planning to answer questions at the end and conclusion of her presentation, so please feel free to utilize the question feature at the bottom of your screen. Thank you, Ms. Tabatha Rosproy. Thanks for being with us here today.
Hello, everybody. I want you to bear with me a second while I pull up my presentation. I, was listening so intently and somehow hit close on it while I was listening. So I'm going to pull that up really quick. But I am really, really excited to be here with you guys today. When I was in school, we didn't have anything like Educators Rising. I don't actually know if it existed, but in my small rural community, it wasn't something that we had. We didn't have career pathways or anything like that. So it is really cool that you guys get this opportunity, and I'm really, really excited to be here with you. And so while I open this up, where'd it go? There it is. I'm going to share my screen here. I love to start my presentations with a little activity to sort of disengage stress. So what I'm going to have you do is to go to, if you have a device, okay, so some of you might be in a classroom and sharing one device, and then you don't have to do this. But if you have a phone or your own device, I want you to join in with me on this. So you're going to go to menti.com, menti.com, and I am going to pull up this activity here. And we are going to play a couple of questions of would you rather, just get us a little bit laughing in a lighthearted mood. So you're going to enter the code at the top of the screen, and it's 9323206. I'll give you a couple of seconds to do that, answer these questions. And the would you rather is, would you rather eat a rotten banana or eat a rotten egg? Oh my gosh, people are coming in strong on eat a rotten banana. Yeah, that's really holding strong. And I personally think that I would also eat a rotten banana because you can make banana bread with a rotten banana, so it can't be all bad. I have also personally smelled a rotten egg, and it's disgusting. Feel free to share with the people near you why you chose banana or egg. I'm going to up the stakes a little bit on the next question, so get ready. Oh my gosh, yeah, 6 people holding on to that rotten egg situation. All right, I'm going to move forward to the next question. And it is, would you rather charge your phone only once a week or not have a camera on your phone? This is not where I saw that going. Okay, I was a little out of touch with younger people because I use my phone primarily as a camera. I feel like I could hold on to the juice, you know, turn it off when I'm not using it, turn it on when I am. This race is a little closer than the last one, but not have a camera on your phone is still there. So in my classroom, I like to do things like this at the beginning of every day with my class, because one thing I do to get my kids ready to learn is to disengage stress. And we need that as older kids, we need that as adults. We are all carrying around stress. Last night was real stressful for a lot of us in America. And we have anxiety and responsibility that sometimes makes it hard to concentrate and learn. But if we can laugh just a little bit and be playful together, that helps gets our brains ready, and it helps us relax and then focus. So thank you for thinking about these things with me today. I'm going to go back to my presentation now. Okay. So good at this. Okay. All right, so I am going to get back to the story of being National Teacher of the Year and give you a little background on me. So I went to high school in Belle Plaine, Kansas, which is pretty close to where I live now. Real small. The town was like 1,200 people. My graduating class was 62. And then I went to college at Southwestern in Winfield, which is actually where I live now. But I began my career at Head Start in Salina, Kansas, fresh out of college. And just like Head Start is for many children, it was a huge foundational start for me. And they invested so much in my professional development. If you are considering early childhood education, Head Start is a really great place to work. Not only did I get to work with students there, but that was also sort of the beginning of my work with families. And if you're familiar with the Head Start model, you'll know how important families are to their mission. And I have kept that with me, long after I've worked for Head Start. Life did lead me back to the town I went to college in, which is Winfield. If you haven't heard of it, it's in South Central Kansas. It's right close to the border of Oklahoma. It's a big city to me, it has 12,000 people. And I teach for the public school system and the special services cooperative here. Something really special and unique about Winfield is that we fully fund preschool for every child. So any 4-year-old, regardless of income or ability, can come to school for free. And that's pretty uncommon in a lot of places. And I didn't know how uncommon that was when I started teaching. We also have some really great other early childhood programs too. And I've also spent some time working with the Reach Tiny K infant and toddler services, doing some contract work in the evenings, serving 0 to 3-year-olds in their homes. And one of the really great things about that is that I've been able to have some of those kids I worked with in their homes come into my class as preschool students when they aged up. And that really goes on to solidify my belief in the magic that happens when you work with families. So fast forward 10 years from my first teaching job, and I was somehow being named Kansas Teacher of the Year. So this was never something that I really was aspiring towards or dreamed about. I knew about it when I was in college. The Kansas Teacher of the Year team came to talk to my class, my early years, maybe freshman year in college. And so I knew about them, but it was never something that I thought was going to happen to me. But of course, when the opportunity was presented, I took advantage of that and, competed as well as I could. After I was named Kansas Teacher of the Year, like just a year ago, it was the end of November 2019, a few weeks later, I got a phone call from Washington, D.C. And because we were coming up on an election year, I thought it was a political phone call. So I didn't answer. But then I got a text message that said, "This is Teresa from the National Teacher of the Year program, and you probably know what this is about, so give us a call when you see this." I didn't know what it was about. I had just booked a flight to California with the rest of the state teachers of the year for our induction. And that's something we did in February. So I thought maybe I was getting upgraded to first class. Like that was where my brain was going. But when I called Teresa, she said, "Are you sitting down?" And I did sit down, and she said, "You have been named a finalist for National Teacher of the Year." And so I could not believe that. Just like 3 weeks earlier, had I been named Kansas Teacher of the Year, and this was not something that I ever anticipated. We have to submit an application when we become Kansas Teacher of the Year for National Teacher of the Year, but there's never been an early childhood educator named National Teacher of the Year. So this is not something I thought would ever happen. And this picture looks very blurry now that it's blown up. Sorry about that. But the other finalists, incredible people. They were from all over the country. They picked 4 people out of the 54 state teachers of the year, which include all of our states and territories, and say these are the top 4 teachers in the country. We flew out to Washington, D.C. together. We interviewed with magazines like Politico and Edweek. We did keynote presentations for different educational organizations across the country, about 17 of them. We did small group interviews and then mock press interviews. It was this whole process. So the next day I got home after 2 days in Washington, D.C., and I got another call from a Washington number. And I answered it this time right away, and it was the same woman, Teresa, and she said, "Are you sitting down? You have been named the National Teacher of the Year." And I was all by myself, and I couldn't believe it, and I had found out so quickly, and I wasn't allowed to tell anybody for several months. Now, I don't know how many of you are bad at keeping big, exciting secrets, but I'm one of them. Usually I can keep other people's secrets fine, but when it's my own secret, it's like when I bought you a Christmas present, you are getting that early if I bought it early. So this was really hard for me. I had to keep it a secret for several months from a lot of people that I love. I was only allowed to tell my husband and, any other close family that needed to know. But I have now had such incredible opportunities as National Teacher of the Year. I have been on the same bill to speak at events with people like Joe Biden and Ibram Kendi. And I often wonder, when are they going to figure me out? They are going to know that I am not supposed to be here. They're going to know that at Christmas time, I wait for tree branches to fall off the trees at Dillon's and then ask if I can have the scraps for my classroom. They're going to know that my hairbrush only has 6 bristles because I keep forgetting to buy a new one. They are going to know I am not supposed to be here. But I am supposed to be here, and so are you. And there's a reason that you're at this conference today. You guys are all bringing your unique experiences to this moment. And to grow from those experiences, we often have to examine them. And so I wanted to share a little bit about how I got where I am today. So this year, I am not actually teaching. I'm not in the classroom. I'm on sabbatical, and I spend the year speaking and advocating on behalf of students and teachers all over the country. Now, to say that I'm missing the classroom would be a huge understatement, which is why I included some of these pictures. These are from my classroom, which is typically housed inside of a nursing home when we are not in the middle of a pandemic. And I'll tell you more about that later. But it's definitely bittersweet to be gone. I get to do things like this with you and connect to incredible people everywhere, but I'm always missing my kids. And one of the things that I miss the most is the hilarious things that preschoolers say. If you've ever been with really young children, you will know how funny they are. One time last year, I was patting a student's back at nap time, and nap time is my plan time. So I need them to fall asleep. So I will pull out all the stops. He said, "Will you sing to me?" And I said, "Okay, sure." And when I started to sing, about 2 lines in, he said, "Oh, never mind. I'm already asleep." And that kid, he did not appreciate my years in show choir. But, he was so hilarious, but he was also one of the most challenging students I've ever had. He was one of those kids who is so dysregulated and has a lot of trouble managing his emotions that at the end of the day, sometimes I was in tears wondering if I was doing what's right for him. And I wondered, what else I could be doing. And he really reminded me of someone I love so much, and that was my big sister. So our home life as kids was pretty chaotic, and it was loud. There was some emotional turmoil going on for sure, but by all appearances, we were just a typical middle-class family. But behind closed doors, there were undiagnosed mental health issues, lots of verbal aggression between my caregivers. But I don't really blame them for that now, because I know that they were just doing the best that they knew how. you won't really get anywhere in life blaming people for something that happened when you were a kid. You know, you just kind of have to keep moving forward. And I love both of my parents, but they didn't have the skills that they needed at the time to deal with what was going on in my sister's life. And I think we often mistake some semblance of financial stability to mean homes without childhood trauma, but I know that through experience, this isn't the case. So my older sister is here. She was pretty troubled when she was a little girl. Her behavior wasn't super aggressive until she became an adult, but as a kid, she was really anxious and hypervigilant. She got overwhelmed frequently. She had lots of learning issues at school. But the only thing that really got addressed for her at school were her academic shortcomings. And at home, she was punished both for her academic shortcomings and her emotional struggles. Nobody really knew what to do. So her behaviors as a young kid turned into a teenager who did things like lie and steal and run away and buck authority. And she got pregnant before she turned 18. So in her adult life, you know, it was stable for a little while, but she went on to become a drug addict. And now she's been in and out of jail. She's jumped from one abusive partner to the next and sometimes lives out of her car. And, you know, even here right now, I still feel bad that I wasn't able to save her from that reality that so many of my students face. And I've spent a lot of my adult life just racked with guilt, wondering what was different about me? Why did I deserve to escape those destructive patterns that she didn't deserve? And why couldn't I help her? But I realized that it wasn't me that failed my sister. It was the result of holes in our system and a society that was bent on rewards and punishment and these band-aid solutions to really adaptive challenges. My parents were overwhelmed and the school was overwhelmed, and nobody had the skills that they needed to help my sister. But can you imagine an outcome had my sister or my family had the services and education that they needed to help? I dream about a very different life for her. And I dream about what we can do for children when we work together as schools and families and communities. So students like the one who insulted my singing, they're my why. My sister is my why. I can remember her being bullied on the school bus when we were kids in elementary school and standing up for her then. And I'll never quit standing up for her or my students who need something more than just academic education. I've been teaching preschool for 10 years, but I know that my life has also been leading me to advocate for the power of social emotional learning, however old we are. And as a teacher, I get to do this work every day. I get to serve my community. I get to help prevent things like what happened to my sister, and I get to help make the stories of children full of strength and full of hope. And so this brings me to just wondering, why do you guys want to be a teacher? You know, this doesn't have to be a perfect answer as you're thinking about that. My answer has changed many times as I have grown and been given the opportunity to reflect on the experiences that shaped me. But I'd love to see a little bit about what's motivating you to be here right now. And so we're going to go back to Mentimeter. You're going to open up a new slide in a new code. The code is here at the top of the screen. And I want you to just tell me in a few words, why do you want to be a teacher? While you guys are logging on to do that, I'll tell you that I think it's so important that we focus on the reason that we started this job, or that we allow ourselves some time to reflect on why we're here, because the more that we walk toward that purpose, the more successful we're going to be with our kids. Oh, I love these answers. To give back what was once given to me. I also had some amazing teachers in my life that really impacted me. Oh my gosh, some of these are going to make me cry. Like, I'm a crier, you guys, and this is some of these reasons are so beautiful. I'm going to have to save these. You want to help students, you want to help them be resilient, You want to make sure they don't go through some of the struggles that you went through. You want to show unconditional love. You want to create a positive impact. You want to help kids make a difference. You want to empower them to do that. I have seen so many of these talking about relationships. You want to be a safe place. You want to affect change in your community, make their lives a positive experience. You want to help kids who maybe had similar struggles that you did. That's a huge motivator. You know, somebody says they can bond like kind of a big brother. A lot of my students accidentally call me mom sometimes, or grandma, but one of my students now, who I have a relationship with her family after she's been in my class still, she calls me Aunt Tabatha, sometimes now Aunt Mrs. Tabatha. Wow, you guys, these are awesome answers. Teaching does allow you to encounter lots of different people. These are awesome, you guys. I love these. You can keep typing them. I'm going to keep them in a document. I can send them out to you guys or send them to Jill, and she can help with that too. But just looking at these reinvigorates me. Okay, I'll keep that up. But I'm going to go back to my presentation here. Wow. So I loved all of those answers. And I saw a lot of people commenting about relationships and the opportunity to impact the future. And I just want to tell you that education is a career where your imagination can work for you. You know, I mentioned before that my classroom is housed inside of a local nursing home and retirement village. And this came about through a committee I was on called the Early Childhood Readiness Coalition, which had identified the need for more full-day preschool opportunities in our community. And through the Kansas Can redesign, which many of you are probably familiar with, we realized we were serving old needs in a world with new problems. So through this way of thinking, our community partnership formed with Cumbernauld Village, which is the nursing home where my classroom is actually housed. So I want to share this video with you about our program.
My name is Jesse Hatfield. They call me Grandpa Jess. I'll be 91 years old next week. Greet the children every morning when they come in at 8:15. And it's a very, very wonderful feeling. It's just a real neat experience.
I want to say hi to all the little kids that are going to see this. My name is Cecil Thompson. This year I'll be 94 years old. I've been here 5 years, and I was sure glad when they started bringing these young children in so we could be with them. I enjoy them. I get to see them every day. I meet them when they come in. I'm the great-grandfather for 2 great-grandkids, but they live in Chicago. I don't get to see them, but I see these kids here every day.
Well, my name is Betty Long, and I'm a grandma to the kids. I enjoy coming down and reading to them on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, And usually on Tuesday and Thursdays, I come down and play with them. And they're just very enthusiastic, very, very loving.
My name is Ed Foster. I've been here at Cumbernauld about 3.5 years. I'm a former teacher in public schools and at Southwestern College in Winfield. And I've had experience from the kindergarten through college, but I've never been more challenged than I have been with the little bikes. They're tough, but are they sweet?
What do you think, Roger? What do you like to do with the kids?
With the kids?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I just like to be around them and interact with them.
Your next question has to do with what it has done and its impact on my own life. I have to tell you that until you're 90 years old, you really don't know how you're going to feel. But I felt several years ago like I had already done anything I could possibly do. I'm almost ready to say that I gave up on an awful lot of my interests, my activities. And I have a little trouble expressing this, but I wake up in the morning so totally different than I did just a year ago. I have a reason for getting up. I have sung all my life, but I've never had the feedback that I get for singing for these kids. Now I see little 4-year-old kids responding in a way that I have never received before.
Ed, do you want to tell the story about what a kid asked you
Oh, yes.
about the war?
You know, I always ask the children, do you have any questions you'd like to ask me? And yes, they do. And sometimes they kind of get off track. But I was kind of taken aback by this question. I said, I was on a battleship in the Navy in World War II. And they said, were you killed in the war? And I said, I don't think so, I'm here. So there are questions like that, and when they're asking, you never know what they're going to ask, but they're so cute, and they're so serious. Thank you.
Thank you.
So you can definitely see the positive impact that this relationship has had on my students and on the community, on the people that live at Cumbernauld Village. This is education reimagined. If you would have told me things like this would be happening when I was a little girl in school, I definitely don't think I would have believed it. I'm connected with educators across our country, and I'm telling you right now that if you want to be a part of reimagining education, Kansas is the place to do that. Kansas educators get it. Now, even though teaching is super great, we still have a role to make it better, and Kansas educators get that too. And so this is something that I say a lot. You can love something an awful lot and still want it to change and grow. Loyalty to the way it's always been serves the past. Educators learn from the past, but we serve the future. So what do we do to keep moving education forward and to keep making sure we're representing the needs of our students? I personally have never been a quiet person. Literally, the only thing I got in trouble in school for was talking. And there was one time that I poked a yolk of an egg we were observing with a pencil, and that's really tempting when you're in third grade, but that is the only other thing I can remember getting in trouble for. And not everybody's that loud, and that's okay. I learned a lesson at the Kansas Leadership Center that I think about all the time. And that is that leadership is an activity, not a position. Leadership has nothing to do with authority. Whether you're quiet or loud, you have the capacity to lead. Your voice has the power to be heroic, no matter its volume. So as a future educator, you'll have to connect with other people who love the career, stay inspired, and advocate for education and its worth on every platform you have with every chance that you get. And as future teachers, I hope you'll take something from the next few slides, which I like to call my ingredients for success. And we'll kind of go through these one at a time, but it's to cultivate classrooms and community relationships, partner with families, and to play. So when I talk about cultivating relationships with classroom and community, you saw the video about my classroom. In that setting, my students' empathy and love has grown more than I ever anticipated. They've built these incredible social skills and respect for people who have differing abilities. Their social emotional learning, has always been a huge part of what I do. But the partnership that we have with Cumbernauld Village provides them with more experience than I could ever provide on my own. The grandmas and grandpas, which is what we call our volunteers, are really a part of the fabric of our classroom. And because of their volunteer work, I get to work with smaller groups of students, and this positively affects their academic skills too. At the end of last year, all of my students were on grade level or above in the area of phonemic awareness, which in 10 years of teaching has never happened. We shoot for 80%, and in pre-K that usually doesn't happen either, being their first experience with school. But that happened because of my volunteers. I wasn't changing what I was doing. It was their presence in my classroom that made the difference. My kids were getting read to one-on-one, and they were building these incredible relationships. So by tapping into what your community has to offer, you get so many benefits. And many schools across the country have relationships with outside entities that strengthen the work that we do in the classroom. In Kansas, this is one of the pillars of the redesign, those community relationships. So this partnership helps me develop those relationships between Cumbernauld and my students, but also peer-to-peer, because so much of our work is spent on focusing on empathy and kindness and respect for one another. And so this naturally carries over in the peer-to-peer relationships. They're kinder and more connected to each other than they ever have been before. And again, that helps me focus on more academic content. Those interpersonal skills are so crucial to success. A couple more of my favorite pictures. So now family partnerships. You guys are all a part of your family. What's going on at home always affects students at school. And I think that many educators think that what we do is very separate from home life, and they're definitely different settings, but each of them are such an important part of the child's life. And if we can work together with families to make both settings strong and positive and full of support, the effort really pays dividends in the life of children. Parenting doesn't come with a manual, and we are highly social creatures. We need our parents to survive, and our parents need love and support too. All of our caregivers do. And though it doesn't come with that guide, I realize that as an educator, our knowledge of developmentally appropriate practice, when shared in a loving way, can be super valuable to our families. And that's one way we can support those relationships. Bring them into your classrooms. Show them the power of what happens there. Share your knowledge when it's needed. Communicate with families as equals and be responsive to the needs of their children and them as a family. I've done things like monthly family nights in my classroom, doing book study with my families over things that they were struggling with at home. I know that we are so much better together. And kind of the last idea on these ingredients for success is to play, to purposefully play in our lives. In college, I was in the improv comedy troupe that performed on campus, and I didn't know then, but what I learned there would help shape my career and my life. So I didn't become a stand-up comedian or walk on to SNL, but I did become a teacher. And often you'll hear me saying, kind of as a joke, that teaching is 10% preparation and 90% theater. And that's not totally untrue. So we all know that what play with young children looks like, right? We can tell when kids are playing, we can see it really clearly, but we often forget that play doesn't just help young children learn, it helps all people learn. So I'm going to take this a little bit of a different direction and tell you not what play is, but what it does for kids and people of all ages. So play decreases worry. It forces us to see connections that we might have missed before, and it fosters connections and relationships with others. When I'm stressed about something, what takes my mind off of that needless worry? Like a distraction that takes me somewhere else into not such a stressful place. Many people think it's a sign of immaturity or being childish to play as a teenager or an adult, but in reality, it helps us be vulnerable in helpful ways that break down barriers in our relationships and really accelerate intimacy with our friends. You know, once about a year after I was married, and I've been married 6 years now, my husband asked me in the driveway to sing a song in the most bluesy voice that I could sing. And I don't even remember, it was like a Johnny Cash song or something. And I was like super embarrassed to do it. I married this man and I was afraid to do this with him. I finally did it. And I remember how much we laughed after that and how that's one of my favorite memories with him. That moment accelerated the intimacy in our relationship because we were playful together. So play is also a stress reliever. Oops, sorry, I forgot to click that. Being a person is a lot of work. It's really exciting, but it's also a lot of work. We aren't wired to do as much work as we do, and it's been detrimental to our well-being. And I say this as a person who loves to be busy and works like 60 hours a week. Teenagers, kids, we're all stressed out and we have to practice. You know, I was the kid begging my teachers to play games like make it Jeopardy or a fly swatter game or trivia. And I used to think that's because I was competitive, but it's actually because I was learning through play. Play increases your ability to solve problems too. Playful situations really encourage outside of the box thinking, which leads us to build that muscle we need for critical thinking that helps us solve problems with our loved ones and in the workplace by being able to examine them from all angles. So this builds empathy and understanding and the ability to see things from other people's point of view. And that feels super relevant the day after Election Day. Play is also an investment in yourself and in your well-being. It is not unproductive. It is not a guilty pleasure. Play is vital to our joy, our critical thinking, and our emotional growth. That is what we are doing for young children. That's what we should be doing for all children. And that's what we should be doing for ourselves too. You know, I play all the time. I play Dungeons and Dragons with my husband and his friends. I have Friday night dance parties with my cats. I love card games and board games and that kind of deep connection that comes with laughing until you can't breathe. So I just want you to think, we're not going to do a Minty on this because we're running out of time, but think about how do you play in your life? How do you encourage play in your relationships? Think about that and embrace it. And when you're a teacher, bring it into your classroom and keep it a part of your life forever. Teaching is hard work, but there's never been a single day when I've woken up and not wanted to do it. You know, I know every day that what I'm doing matters. Not everyone gets fulfillment like that, but educators do. And this is one of my favorite quotes is, the best thing about being a teacher is that it matters, and the hardest thing about being a teacher is that it matters every day. And as National Teacher of the Year, I welcome you to this path. I am so excited that you're interested in becoming a teacher, and I'm so honored that one day we'll be colleagues. I want to support you and I want to connect with you. You can find me on social media under any of these handles. I am anywhere social media is. I even have a TikTok, but I don't really do anything on there. I just use it to watch videos, keep up with current events. But I would love for you guys to follow me on Twitter, tag me in anything from today, on Facebook, on Instagram. I would love to continue to do that and make sure our relationship lasts long after this presentation. And so I think though that I'm going to turn it over to Jill and see if we have any questions now. And just thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you so much. It is now time for Q&A. So please click the Q&A button down below and enter your questions for Tabatha. I just love hearing this story. Winfield Early Learning Center is certainly education reimagined. What an amazing symbiotic relationship, hosting a preschool in a nursing home. Thank you for sharing your time and life with us today. I know you likely inspired many to consider early childhood education. So
Yeah, I hope they do.
yeah. All right. Somebody is asking for the slide presentation. I will tell you that the presentation will be recorded today. And Tabatha, is the slide presentation available online, or is that something?
Yeah, I can link it to you if Jill, if you want to get it out to people that way, or I can put it in the chat. Either way, whatever works for you guys.
Okay, you could do both. That'd be great. You know what? I'm not sure if they have access to the chat, so you can send it to me and we'll.
Okay. I will send it.
Let's see, what is the most difficult part of working with littles?
Man, I think teaching them to regulate behavior. That is a big part of our job. And you have to just think about, they're coming to us with literally no experience, and we are putting them into a structured school routine, which structure is great. You know, it makes kids feel safe and it helps them learn. But I think that it's very, it's tricky at first. You know, people often say it's kind of like herding cats, and sometimes it does feel like that. And no offense to cats, I have 4 cats and I love them. And no offense to children when we say that, but it is a little bit, it's draining, you know, physically in a way that working with older children might not be, but it's also rewarding in a really different way. And both are both challenging and rewarding, just a little bit different.
We have some praise here. You're inspirational. Thank you. Amazing. And then how has being a teacher affected how you are today? What perspectives have you gained that influence who you are as a person today?
Well, you know, one big thing is I understand my community in such a different way. You know, as sort of a public servant, I get to see parts of the community that are sometimes hidden to other people. You know, Winfield, even my town, it looks like a place of prosperity. You know, you'll drive into it, it's beautiful, it's well taken care of. But my husband and I always call it like first Winfield and second Winfield. You know, people don't really see like the rural poverty and some of the issues that are going on. But through my work with the school, I get to understand the needs of my kids in a really different way. And I think that information is power, and I can really affect change when I understand the kids that I'm serving every day. And so life can sometimes be a little harder. You know, ignorance is bliss in some ways when you think everything's just sunshine and roses, but you can really affect change when you understand the kids you work with.
Right, thank you. Idalia says that they do have access to the chat if you want to post in there, and it looks like you already did. So
just pasted it. Okay.
Let's see, Emily Salinas, by the way, our first question was from Joey, and then from Joey Gales, and then from Michelle Staples in Olathe. Did you face any obstacles when you were pushing to reimagine your classroom, and how did you overcome them? That's from Mid-America's Emily Salinas.
Yes, yeah. So I think that there are growing pains in any new initiative. And one of the biggest thing is like creating community buy-in, right? Because, you know, it's public tax dollars that help fund a lot of the things that we do in our classrooms. And so maintaining those positive relationships with your community are really important. And again, just learning to be an advocate is really what I did through that. And I'm also super involved in Kansas National Education Association, which is our professional bargaining organization in my local area. And some of you will hear about that as you go through teacher ed programs. But through that, I really have learned that advocacy piece about being an educator, and how, you know, sometimes people don't know what we need unless we ask for it. And sometimes that can be uncomfortable getting into those situations. But most of the time when you go to administrators or principals, they just don't know what you needed unless you say it, right? Like, because they have so much on their plates and so much to think about, that you need to be doing that as a teacher, not only for your career, but for your students. And so some of those moments were uncomfortable when I had to sort of, you know, be that leader when I wasn't in an authority position. And especially when we were going through Cumbernauld Village, you know, that's a nursing home. They have lots of regulations that we don't have. And one of the things we had to do was make sure every single one of our kids is up to date on their vaccinations, and they all have to get the flu shot, because we know they're both such vulnerable populations. And so that's been a little bit tricky because we don't require the flu shot in some of our other places, but there are little things like that that come up every day. And I think that again, just the more you focus on relationships with people, the easier those asks are going to be later.
Thank you. Candace Kern from Mid-America said, what are some other ways you have connected with parents, and how have you used, or what have you used to build relationships with them and your students, between parents and students?
So one of my dear friends, Stephanie Lane, who is on the Kansas Teacher of the Year team with me this year, and she is from Clay Center. I love the way that she describes parent, family, teacher relationships. She talks about them like a bank account kind of. And so you make deposits or withdrawals in a bank account. And so you want to make sure that the first time you talk to a parent, it's not a withdrawal, because you'll go into the negative. And so all the positives are those relationship building, moments. The deposits are talking about great things that their students are doing, involving them in the classroom. And the withdrawals are like maybe when their child is struggling or has a behavior in class that you need to address. And so you always want to make more deposits than withdrawals, just like, any bank account. But for me, it really just comes from a place of honesty and being willing to listen to teacher perspective. Many teachers, or to parent perspective, many teachers don't really talk to parents until parent-teacher conferences. And that is not for me. Like from day one, I want to be a team with them. And that means having some shared power. And so I think that in the most traditional sense, we think I'm in charge in the classroom, you're in charge at home. And that is the case, but we also need to work together, and we need to share some of that power and be relatable and be human. I'm not just this face behind a screen or this face in the classroom, but I am on the same team as you. We're working toward the same goal. And so it's just really a lot of little moments that lead up to big success.
Great. I think we have time for just maybe a couple more questions. This question is from Rebecca Brown. She asks, I feel like I took so much away from this. Thank you. Are there any strategies you could suggest to cultivate peer relationships in the classroom?
Yes. So one big thing that I focus on is peer-to-peer relationships. And so kids need eye contact, they need physical touch, and they need playful situations. Now, right now, physical touch is hard during COVID. Teachers are finding creative ways to do that. But in a more general way, that's an intentional part of every single day. And so I have my kids do connection activities. I write it into my lesson plan, because a lot of things that I do, I won't remember to do unless I write it down. And so every single day, they're getting multiple opportunities to be playful with a friend and for me to help orchestrate that. And we do something I love that you guys could look up called I Love You rituals. There are videos of them. It's an idea through Conscious Discipline, this program that I love, that involve those things. And for the younger crowd, it's kind of like nursery rhymes that are really positive and get kids to look at each other and to smile and to laugh. I do social emotional play groups in my classroom where we're working on things like conversation skills and eye contact and problem solving. You just have to be intentional. There are so many resources out there, but you have to make it a part of your day, just like you do math and science and reading.
Okay. And then how has being National Teacher of the Year changed your everyday life?
Well, I tell you, I'm in this room every day. That's one of the biggest changes. I was supposed to be traveling the country right now and doing speaking engagements like this. I would have seen you in person. But I am limited because of COVID. But the biggest thing is that it's allowed me to do is to have an audience with people that I didn't before. And that is not lost on me. I get an audience with state legislators, national legislators. I get audience with incredible policymakers, decision makers, other great speakers, people who have access to making change in ways that I didn't before. And I love that I get to be kind of a conduit for that love and energy coming from all the teachers and students across our country. And it really is just about that different audience that I have now. And that's not lost on me, the power of that.
All right, we have just more accolades to you from Adelia Schumann saying you are a real inspiration. Thank you for your professionalism and advocacy for the profession. And from CAPS, and that's in Blue Valley, we have, what does the classroom look like right now with COVID?
So my classroom specifically has been moved back to our Early Learning Center, where all of our other preschool programs are housed. And I have a long-term sub who is there. And so we're still doing lots of connection activities with the residents. Got them hooked up with Zoom, window visits, pen pals, pictures, videos, things like that. But we don't get to be together in person. So that is one of the number one reasons I cannot wait for this pandemic to be a distant memory.
Well, thank you again, Tabatha, for joining us today. Participants, we will still have one more afternoon presentation session. And don't forget the college and sponsor virtual visits from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock. You can visit up to 5 different colleges. And also there's an opportunity to learn about the KFTA summer camp opportunity this summer. And then once again, I'm Jill Gonzalez-Bravo here at Mid-America Nazarene University. I'm the unit head department chair here. And so I just am so thankful for all that joined us here today. Enjoy your next session, and don't forget the virtual visits at the end of the day. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Tabatha. Have a wonderful day.